Welcome everybody. Just some quick updates on OCFSN, what we've got going on. We're in the, coming to the rounding out the year, and the leadership team is actually going to begin recruiting new leadership team members. And part of that process, there'll be an open house on October 13th from 10 to noon. We'll be sharing that information out to OCFSN. But yeah, that'll be a chance for folks who are interested in learning about how the kind of leadership and governance of the network works. You can chat with leadership team members, see how they've found valuable being a part of this broader network and helping, those networks and connections. So yeah, that's happening. We're having a big policy mini convening on September 27th. That again will be sent out in the upcoming newsletter. That is going to be a conversation from experts who are involved in policy in the food systems, and we're going to be talking about community food systems in the 2023 legislative session for Oregon, and then also Farm Bill. So two big things coming up there in this policy mini convening. It's got a lot of attendees, so there's going to be a lot of expertise in the room. I think we have like 50 registrants so far, so it's going to be a really, I think, valuable meeting if folks are interested in that policy work. We're doing an event here in Eugene, where I am, on the 13th as well at 6 p.m. or around there. We've been doing regional gatherings. We did one in Central Oregon. We did one in Portland. We're doing one here in South Willamette. We'll be doing one in Southern Oregon in the future, North Coast in the future as well. And yeah, just putting that out there. Add it to your calendar. We're sending invites to folks we know are in the area, or reach out to me if you want to be added to that invite list. And then one final thing is we have Shin's done a really amazing job putting together opportunities in the food systems on our website, and we have a calendar of events that are happening. We have lists of upcoming jobs and grant opportunities. So if folks have things they want to post on there, there's a spreadsheet that you can go and click on, and I'll add that link in the chat, and you can go there and add your opportunity, and we'll put it up on the site for folks to see and put it in the newsletter as well. Those are what's happening right now across the network.
Thanks, Andrew. And welcome everybody. If you're just jumping on, we're just giving OCFSN updates. We've got a packed agenda today. We are recording this session right now. Maybe just you can keep your camera off if you don't want to be recorded. And if there are things in the conversation you prefer not to be recorded, you can direct message Andrew or I, and we can navigate that, including there's some topics on here that we might stop the recording for as well. And if you are looking at what is this prompt question in the chat, we were talking about how this is we're starting to get into that transition from summer to fall. And how are folks feeling about that kind of period of time of transition, and what support do you feel like you need? Also, I see some new names and new faces and folks on here, so feel free, welcome Jazz, to introduce yourself in the chat too, and let people know who you are, and perhaps you have been in these circles before, but you're in a new role or a new organization, or new responsibilities that you're holding, and certainly you're welcome to share any of that. The next thing that we have on the agenda for today is I sent out to the listserv an announcement about collecting stories and testimonials for this national effort. There's a group called the National Produce Prescription Collaborative, and much like the Oregon Veggie Rx network under OCFSN, they're bringing together folks from Veggie Rx or Produce Rx programs around the country. And there is a big convening or conference happening. It's called the White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health. That's coming up at the end of September. And the National Produce Prescription Collaborative is hoping to pull together some testimonies about Veggie Rx programming or produce prescription programming to share with all of those representatives, elected officials about why this type of programming is important, and what we want to see come out of that. And I think the White House conference, obviously there's a lot of powerful voices that are attending that conference and just trying to get their ear and eye on what's happening on the ground throughout the country. So if you have already collected for your program quotes or testimonies, it could be written, it could be vocal, it could be, Juliet just sent me a link to a great video that they have on their program for Thrive Umpqua and their Veggie Rx Umpqua program, which was already made. Like, she didn't have to do anything more than just send me the link to that. You're welcome to send me any of those types of things. And I'm hoping to compile those and send them on to the National Produce Prescription Collaborative folks to share more stories from Oregon and what's happening here. So you're welcome to email me after this meeting if you have any questions about that. And certainly if you have time and capacity and want to collect more from your program, specifically voices from the folks that are participating in these programs, we'd love to hear that. So it's another great opportunity to spotlight what's going on. And I think something to consider is that sometimes we feel like, oh, maybe our program, you know, I don't know how much of an impact it really has on folks, or I don't want to like brag about what I'm doing. And it's more important that I spend my time on the folks that are participating in this program, which is absolutely true. And if we don't advocate for these programs, oftentimes that leads to less funding, less notice on the larger level of systems thinking, right? So just plug in that in there. Great. So I'm going to flip back and we want to give time to talk about Fresh Connect expansion opportunity for Juliet. And this is maybe when we stop the recording. Although before you stop recording, maybe I'll just explain really briefly what Fresh Connect is, so that if people are interested and are listening to this recording, they can get in touch with us later about how to get involved. Fresh Connect is a technology platform that allows Veggie Rx programs to use a debit card system. So program participants receive a debit card instead of paper vouchers. And that's what they're using to shop for those fresh fruits and veggies for their program. Maybe I'll just, unless Juliet, you want to add anything else to that. Okay, cool. We'll stop recording now. Wonderful. Okay, so we're talking about a post-survey tool that was developed at the beginning of the year. There's a pre-survey tool, and then the post-survey tool is a follow-up to that. And there are, in fact, I'm happy to share my screen on this if that would be helpful. This is something that Emily Dollar, OHSU family medicine resident, helped, well, actually pre-Emily Dollar. There's been a couple of different OHSU residents that have helped develop this survey over the years. And I see Ecole just jumped on the call too. Hi, Ecole. This has been a very collaborative effort over several different seasons and years to help programs evaluate the effectiveness of their program and kind of what's going on with program participants across multiple different programs. Even though the design of our programs might look slightly different, there are similar questions that we want to ask across the board, and kind of standardize those evaluation questions. So there's this, and actually let me see if I can, I will copy this link really quick and I'll plug it in the chat so you all can see that. But there are questions in the pre-survey, the two-part in food insecurity questions. There are things asking about, what program are you in? There are, if you do have insurance, like if folks have OHP or if they have Medicare, private insurance, uninsured, getting a sense of how many people are in the household, some demographic information, basically. If they receive nutrition support, things like SNAP and WIC, or other programs. And there's a lot of different questions in there, some about physical health and mental health as well. So Emily Dollar helped us also develop a post-survey tool. And as we're talking about this transitional time into the fall, a lot of programs kind of end in October, November, or by the end of the year. And so we just wanted to make sure that we have that post-survey that everybody agrees on. And there's some standardized questions that everyone's asking. But as Juliet alluded to, there are questions that a program could add in based on their specific model and questions that they want. And it feels like that depending on who is a program operator and wants to use that post-survey tool, that might be another meeting time to all get together to kind of organize thoughts around that. But Juliet, I don't know if does that?
Yeah, so, but I think we did, Kaylee. I think we already had the post-survey meeting, if I'm okay. And then there was just one thing that was still in question. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't meet again, especially if there are folks that are thinking you might want to start using this. But the one thing that was in question was about the storytelling. Sorry. And I see Alexandra is here, and I just caught up really quick with the latest communications about that. But Alexandra has offered to do the outreach and story collection of participants that respond in the survey saying that they're willing to share a story and details. And so we're just kind of finalizing the way that question would be asked and the preferred method of contact or outreach that the participant has. So and once again, I'm the one having to like stress everyone out because I'm probably the first one that needs the post survey finished for my program. So I need to have it sent out to my clinic contacts before next Friday. So if there are any, and you know, it's a post survey, so it has to match the pre-survey. So there's not a lot of changes that can happen at this point anyway. But yeah, so I guess my question is, do we feel like we need to have a meeting? Are there folks that would like to meet to learn more about what we're doing to potentially adopt this? Or do we just wrap up this last detail in this question, move forward, and then kind of regroup before next year to bring more folks on board? That's a question for all of you. No one has answers for me. Well, and I guess, you know, for folks that were at the post-survey meeting, which I know was at least Kaylee and Alexandra, but I can't remember at this point if there were others. Just for Kaylee and Alexandra, do you feel like we need to meet again? Totally open to that if you want to, or should we just wrap up this question?
I am along for the ride, so I'm very available. If it seems like there's a need for another meeting, it does seem like perhaps this last question, if others don't need to have input, could probably be addressed over a series of emails, perhaps.
Okay. You good with that, Kaylee?
I'm great with that. And I think, Alexandra, your suggestions in the email of asking people if they would like to be, you know, have follow-up on learning more about their story and then a way to contact them, the best way to contact them is probably the route to go. And I can adapt that in that post-survey template to address that. But if Juliet, can you remind me, or if you want to do it yourself too, that's fine. But to follow up on that.
Yep,
Okay.
will do.
Cool, thank you.
And yeah, if anyone else is ever like, hey, I want to know more about this survey situation, just reach out to one of us and we can just get you looped into the process. But I think early next year, we can do another big broad call out to invite folks into that process as we review them again for next year and see what needs to be changed and improved. Okay, thanks, y'all.
And if you're interested on what the survey looks like on like the survey report, the last survey report is up on the OCFSN website under the Veggie Rx working group. So you can take a look at that. It's a really great report. Again, thanks Ecole and Taj, who's not on the call, but was the previous resident who was working on all of that and really compiling all of that data and analyzing all of that. It's a fantastic report and tool when you're talking to your CCO partners or you're talking to, you know, folks that you want to onboard about this idea of Veggie Rx. You can use that. That's why we have this report to use it and to share it with other people so that they can get an idea of how these type of programs operate and how they impact folks in our different communities. And there is very statistically significant data that says this actually really does support people and make a difference. So that's also really incredible because oftentimes funders and supporters of these programs are saying, okay, I like this idea. People are saying this is great, but where's the statistical you know, data saying like this is actually working for folks. And you can point back to that report that is based in Oregon programming. Is Michelle on this call? I wasn't sure if there's a phone number that I don't recognize, and I'm not sure if who that is. It's a 646 number. And if you're someone else, welcome. We're glad you're here too. Okay. In that case, I think this question that you brought up, Juliet, about if OCFSN could be an umbrella organization, and also something that Gabrielle kind of brought up in some of the challenges that you're seeing in your program. We've looked into the idea of organizing as a working group and as OCFSN Veggie Rx network to say we would really like to explore this idea of applying for GusNIP funds for the next, it would be June of 2023 that we would actually apply, but looking at how many partners there are out there and how much time it takes in relationship building and making sure everybody's on the same page and we're going towards the same goals. Oftentimes that organizing work does take more than, you know, years to happen. And so we wanted to make sure that we were continuing this conversation about what people want to see, what would be helpful if we had some extra funds available to us to organize. And I'm bringing this up because I wonder if part of the hope is that, oh, Emily, thanks for being on. Did you want to give some program updates before you hop off? Looks like she already hopped off. Okay, we'll follow up with Emily afterwards. But I guess I'm posing the question, what would be helpful if there was funds available and that we were organizing on the statewide level?
Kaylee, and it sounds like this is a question for folks that are operating Veggie Rx programs. I guess this is related, not exactly answering your question, but I am curious who else is on these calls that isn't operating programs, and I guess why are you on these calls? What is your interest? Sorry, that sounds rude. Just neutral. Why? Like, what are you getting out of these calls? What are you interested in contributing to these processes? Because like as a program operator, I'm like wanting to talk about program stuff and the details of that and learning from each other. But then there's a part of me that's like, I don't know what the other folks are on here for, and I don't want to go too into the weeds. So this again seems like something that is for like program operators. So I guess I'm just curious about the other folks that are on here and what you're hoping to get out of this call or contribute in the least rude way possible.
I can answer that if I can get a chance. Not rude at all. I take it as an opening. Thank you for inviting someone not operating a program. So I started participating in this call because I used to run a program or manage a program. I don't any longer, but I'm in a position at Oregon State Extension now. That's a new position around food security, and I think some folks know this already. That has a lot of latitude, wide latitude, to support ongoing efforts around food access in novel and creative ways. And Veggie Rx is one of those. And I don't know what OSU's, OSU has supported different Veggie Rx programs in small ways and has actually run a couple of sites in different parts of the state with nutrition education, resources, and other things. But at a statewide level, I don't know what the role of the university is in supporting Veggie Rx. And so I'm kind of like participating in the call just to stay in touch with what's going on in Veggie Rx and look for those opportunities where it's like, oh yeah, that's what we can do. That's what Extension can do in a statewide collaborative role to support the Veggie Rx programs happening around the state. So I continue to participate and continue to listen. I don't honestly know what my program can contribute yet, but I'm listening for that.
But you're looking for ways to contribute. That's awesome.
Yep.
That's great to know. Thanks, Jared.
I'm happy to answer those questions too, since I'm new. I'm Jasmine or Jazz, she, her pronouns, and I guess not recently, it'll be a year that I've started working at Oregon Food Bank this October, the end of this October. And my position is a new position where I work directly with community members around like health equity organizing work. So I was curious kind of about the Veggie Rx work, the space, how to maybe connect people that I'm working with to these types of programs. And I think one thing that came up for me is a lot of folks don't know like what Veggie Rx is or how it works. So I think I just came into this space just kind of curious to learn more about how do you plug people in into the community who maybe are interested in this or maybe know work with folks who would really benefit from these programs. What does it take to like run this type of work? I guess similar to what Jared was saying, how could, Oregon Food Bank support the work that y'all are doing? But yeah, I didn't really have too much that I was expecting out of this space, just really trying to learn more, maybe plug the people in that I'm working with to Veggie Rx.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jasmine. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Kaylee, I feel like I just co-opted this whole thing. So if we need to just stop right there.
No, this is perfect. I love where this conversation's going.
Me too.
So,
this is helpful to me. So yeah, if we have time to continue, if there are others, then I'd love that. But if we need to move on to something else, that's fine.
Nicole, go ahead.
I would love to just say that I think that a grant in 2023, of course, it sounds amazing to me. For all of those people that come to these calls that don't necessarily have programs that would hop on and potentially start a program if there was funding, even if it was like here's the cookie cutter, here's the program that you need to do if you're going to be a part of this grant, but I think it's still better than nothing. And I also think that if somehow Oregon Community Food Systems Network could be a part of the grant and like maybe there's like some capacity building. I don't know what the grant's good for if that's allowed, but I'm just thinking like we've desperately needed, more coordination or like a leader in this. And so I think that funding that position would be amazing.
I can also answer this question too, because I don't actually have a produce prescription program currently. If we've met before, like 6 months before, I was working with Adelante Mujeres and managing a Veggie Rx program since 2014. So I'm have a lot of experience in building a program and funding a program and the evolution of those programs. And I've wanted to stay involved in this group so that I could both share that and continue to learn from these programs, because now that I'm at OHSU, Nicole and I have had a lot of conversations about how do we get this implemented again, because there had been a program in the past. And also I'm really curious on how this might work for private insurance as a means to reach folks too. So not just the OHP side of things or coordinated care organizations, but how this might be instituted at in a different way for employees who are my focus at OHSU now, and employees who are experiencing food insecurity despite the fact that they have a full-time job. And so how do we reach those folks? And then I think, just as a curious human, I've seen the progression of these programs serving folks that might have been left out of other traditional food support benefits, and that there's an opportunity to really, again, I don't believe that this program is a be all end all or like a solution to food insecurity or hunger, but I think that it could help in some ways, especially for folks in undocumented communities and other folks that oftentimes get left out of the support systems that be. So that's kind of where I'm coming at with this, and would love to support that. And I know not to put folks on the spot, but and if you don't want to answer, that's okay. But like, Sol, I'm so excited that you're new and on these calls, and I'm curious, it looks like you're located in Washington, but how could this network also be of support, or what made you curious enough to jump on a call with us?
Sorry, can y'all hear me? Thank gosh. Okay, I just started a position with Northwest Harvest a couple of weeks ago, and I'm actually from Portland, Oregon, and had a conversation with Shin a couple of weeks ago, because what we're really trying to do is do a lot of coalition building, and there's a lot of overlap with some of the organizations that we have been working with that I saw on this large allies and organizational map that was created by OCFSN. There we go. Perfect. And so there's a lot of overlap in the work we're doing. And I wanted this to, we're all sort of in this Pacific Northwest sort of area. And I think there's a lot of learning that could be done, especially because we work in our own little silos. And I think I'm just interested in learning how to create a space that's similar to this. And so I'm very new to the anti-hunger world as well. And I think there's a lot I could learn from all of y'all. So yeah, I'm just curious. Shin said I should hop on, and I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, I'm just here to learn from all of y'all as well.
Thank you, Sol. I'm glad that you made it on, and I hope that you continue to come join these conversations and we can learn from you and share what we know. Great. Are there other folks? I see Ava, I don't recognize your name. Hi.
Hi there.
Welcome.
Hi. So I am the new farm and garden manager at the Marion Polk Food Share. I'm taking over from Jared. And so we do run a Veggie Rx program. It's a little different because we actually grow all of the produce that we send out. And we are always thinking of ways that we can improve our program. And so I'm just hoping to gather some ideas, even if our model is a little bit different from the models that everyone else uses. So I'm over here packing tomatoes right now. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for getting those tomatoes out to folks. Great. Sophie, it looks like you're connecting to different audio. Can you hear us, and would you like to share more about what you're doing? All right, Sophie, you're welcome to unmute
sorry,
yourself.
are you talking to,
oh, now,
can
yeah,
you hear me?
awesome. Now we can, yep.
Sorry, I am an OHSU resident, family med resident, like Emily Dollar, and so am hoping to get involved in potentially continue some of the stuff that she's been working on. And this is my first time being at a meeting, and I'm sorry, I'm on vacation in a place with not much internet. So I was on a call in first and now trying to get in the app, but it keeps kicking me off. So I'm doing my best here.
Thanks, Sophie. Thanks for being here. And as some of you all saw too, Alexandra, you're a PhD student focusing on Veggie Rx as your dissertation. So I think that there is also a huge interest in evaluation of these programs and supporting these programs from that lens too. Students getting involved in researching how this actually works and what matters for Veggie Rx. So thanks y'all for being here too. We don't have a ton of time left, but kind of what I feel like I'm hearing is that capacity is a huge issue, and that their capacity on a network level to really organize across programs and some dedicated staff time potentially to help bridge those communications and just keep things organized in some ways and communication between folks organized, and that a FINI or a GusNIP grant could include part of that. But I'm also hearing that just program operations is obviously, if we don't have programs that are running, there's no need to organize between those programs because there wouldn't be anything to organize. So some capacity for individual programs themselves, and maybe getting new programs started even. I reread the comment from Emily, who was on here earlier, and I think I misread their comment before, but waiting for updates on our program, which might mean that they are wanting to start a program, but don't have, nothing's rolling yet. And so if there were some funds to start those programs, that might be very helpful as well. And Michelle and I had talked about that. We've talked about that several times, of having some sort of mentoring program where program operators that have been going for a while could maybe be paid some money to help mentor new programs that are coming on and share their wisdom and their time with those folks. And sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but capacity on a program level, on a statewide level, networking, and things for technology. So if financial cost is a barrier for programs to use a certain technology like Fresh Connect or another platform, that might also be helpful in this grant proposal to put some more extra funds in there. And one other thought to kind of help summarize maybe what some of the comments that I'm hearing, at least, and please feel free to correct me if I've misinterpreted any of this, but Nicole, you had brought up a good point about, there may be organizations or clinics that want to implement this, but are just looking for sort of a packaged thing, or they would be willing to take on a packaged program that they implement. And I know I've said this time and time again, but looking at successful programs like the Double Up Food Bucks program in the state of Oregon, where a lot of different farmers markets were using or had some sort of SNAP matching program that they were running. But when there was this program that was presented to say, this is Double Up Food Bucks, here's the branding, here's how we do it, this is how we're going to do it statewide, it allowed more farmers markets to get involved, and now even corner stores and grocery stores getting involved in that. And although it may have slightly adjusted how programs are implementing that, from a customer's perspective and bringing in that voice of folks that are actually utilizing these programs, it can be really helpful in saying this is a standardized program across all areas in Oregon. So whether you're moving between Corvallis and Josephine County, you can expect the same thing out of a program, and you can understand how that works so that you're not readjusting to each different program if you're moving to different places, right? So there's benefits to standardize some of those things, while also keeping the individual community and area at heart of like, what are the strengths and things that we all bring to that, and what are the specific needs to that specific community. So, okay, yes, Ecole, go ahead.
One more quick note on that, like the double up food bucks are able to be used at any of the markets that that are part of the program. So who knows how that would work in the future with Veggie Rx, but I'm just thinking in the bigger picture, like somehow it just made the program much more fluid, and it made the use of the customer use of it a lot more flexible. So all getting on board with the same program actually really made it a lot more flexible for customers, which was cool.
Does that summary hit? Like, how do you feel like, okay, maybe that's a good, and great that we recorded it, because I'm terrible at facilitating and taking notes on these things. So hopefully Otter or the recording, we can go back and kind of have those bullet points and then go from there. One thing that we did want to do today that we obviously don't have time for is going around and sharing like what capacity, skills, and strengths does this group possess in order to put forth to that proposal, and really work towards accomplishing a proposal that will hit on all of those needs. And I did see, Juliet, in your comment about really getting together to support the actual programming and like logistics of programming and details and like how that all works. Another idea that Shin had brought to us that we wanted to propose to this group is doing on maybe every other one of these monthly meetings or on a quarterly basis, is to open this time and space up for a challenge clinic. And the idea is that someone would be the focus person. They would present whatever challenge they're faced with, and it could be very programmatic. Hey, my patients can't get to the farmer's market because they don't have transportation. And there are a set of questions that then the rest of the group can ask that person out of curiosity and start to like brainstorm how to work through those challenges. So it's very much like there's kind of a case study of what's happening, and then people can contribute to thinking through solutions for that. Does that sound like something that people would be interested in trying out at least, and maybe doing at an upcoming meeting?
I'm open to that. I also, though, wouldn't mind just like some unstructured time, like a maybe 20-minute slot at every meeting or every other meeting where it's just kind of open floor for challenges, questions, ideas, but like program related, because I feel like we don't really get to that very much because we usually have like specific things, and I probably like have something that I could ask for support on like every time. So it may not be a big thing that requires like a full like kind of like presentation and then like formal feedback time, but just like throwing out there some stuff. So whether it's that way, maybe some people would really appreciate that, like some really some held time really specific to that, or just open forum, like we're going to talk about program stuff. Where are people at? What do people need to troubleshoot together? yeah, and just also like this shared time where other people can also share, like, here's what I'd like to contribute. Is there space for that? Or I'm thinking about eventually starting my program, like, you know, just, yeah, open time.
Great. We can definitely include that in these, and I'm glad that that feedback is getting shared too. It is 1:01 according to my clock, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up, but always feel free to reach out to me or Michelle or Shin or Andrew. And if you do have any other suggestions of how we can organize these meetings that would be most helpful to you. So thank you all for joining today.
Thank you, Kaylee. And I just really want to say thanks for sharing that broader, big picture vision again about like what we're kind of working toward. It helps me. And yeah, just wanting to encourage other programs that we can work together and really collaborate and streamline and have. I love that idea of a patient moving from one county to the next and being able to just flow right in. So yeah, thanks for kind of grounding us back with that bigger vision. I appreciate that.